A reflection for the second Sunday after Pentecost. Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. From today's epistle of St. John. In this we have known the charity of God, because he hath laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. And a sentence from today's Gospel, according to St. Luke. And he sent his servant at the hour of supper to say to them that were invited that they should come, for now all things are ready. There's a temptation for me in relation to the Gospel, because you might think, and I thought so myself when I first read it, that it would be dangerously close to my favorite subject of the heresy of universal salvation. That's the belief that God is love and won't allow anyone to suffer in hell for eternity. It was a favorite speculation of theologians in the last century, with huge damage to the church. And the bitter irony is that there may be people in hell today because they chose to believe universal salvation. Still their fault. But they chose to believe it as an excuse to live lives in disregard to the clear teaching of Christ. Those we described who walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanness. And that's St. Peter in his second epistle. Now, remember, of course, that the Church never speaks infallibly about the damnation of anyone. But in this parable, well, the invited are going to be rejected. The master says to the servants, "But I say unto you that none of those men that were invited shall taste of my supper." They had found excuses why they couldn't come. And on the face of it, those excuses are rather good, aren't they? Someone who's bought a farm, that's an important thing to do. It's a way of making sure that you and your family will have, means to live. And the same applies to the oxen, doesn't it? They will help in order to be productive in production of food and whatever on the farm. And then there's the excuse, if we can call it that, of marrying a wife. In those days, of course, if you, in certain occupations, for example in the army, you would be able to take effectively wedding leave. And it would be quite considerable amount of time too. But the Lord isn't condemning those three pursuits, those three important activities, we might say, or commitments. No, he's rather putting them into context. Context is the supernatural one. We know that the early church had a strong sense that the Lord was about to return. And really, we should have that as well. So yes, we should spend time making sure that our business or our whatever activity that we are involved in of a professional sort is done well, and that we have indeed checked that everything is okay. And we also should make sure that if it's God's vocation for us, that indeed that we go about marriage and family life with a great deal of care and commitment. But these are all things for down here. And we have got to understand that the first priority is the kingdom of heaven. Often commentators guess that this parable is aimed at the chosen people, the Pharisees and the other elders who have rejected Jesus and that this is his riposte. I'm not sure. Why should we jump to the conclusion that Jesus is speaking only about the Jews of his day? After all, we must understand parables are designed to leap over 2,000 years and perhaps a lot longer. Who knows? God knows. And therefore are relevant for us. And we live most certainly in the age of rejection of the invitation. Oh, we have important things to do down here. And we might say, well, our situation as Catholics is radically different. Yes, but nevertheless, it's the same work-heaven balance that we need to keep. And then, very significantly, we are the servants. And we continue to offer the invitation on behalf of God. That is our job. And we neglect it at our peril. What if the servants had come back or looked at the invitations when the master had handed them out and said, "Oh, it's a bad time. There's too much competition. These people have never had it so good. Master, perhaps it would be a good idea to wait for what about a pandemic? Or a war, which might go nuclear at any moment." I think there's shades of St. Augustine of Canterbury as well in this particular case. Remember that he was sent by St. Gregory the Great, and he got cold feet when he heard about what was going on this island, and turned round in France and went back. What would have happened if St. Gregory had not injected some backbone into him? He made him in charge of the group of 40 monks, so they couldn't outvote him. Yes, it was the second attempt when he landed, and what a wonderful result. We have a crucial task entrusted to us, the salvation of the world. Servants who lose heart at the first brush off are not going to look good when they return to the master empty-handed. The Lord has to send these ones out twice more, doesn't he? Faithless servants will be held to account. Our Lord has died for us. He has worked salvation for us. And we simply need to be the messengers. The message is, of course, that the guests can choose to respond. When they see the invitation, as it were, landing on the mat behind the door, they can choose. And yet, at the end of this parable, go out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. Is the Lord exaggerating for effect, using hyperbole? I think simply he is stressing the importance and the urgency of the invitation, and indeed of our role in it. Does this mean that everyone will come to the party and find heaven? Whether you like heaven or not, you must come in? I don't think so. Try telling that to an atheist in your workplace. Try telling it to someone who does not believe in God, who thinks it's wishful thinking, the opium of the people. No, we must give people freedom. Freedom to love God. Freedom to decide against it. Christ is deadly serious, and we must be too, the servants with invitations in our hands. But it's not like some sort of mail shot. It's not selling the watchtower. No. How we do this is by the personal witness of our lives and in our relationships. That's the important thing to remember. The Lord wills nobody to be lost, but we have to go about that challenge to our neighbors in a way which is, well, it reveals the love of God. The Lord will honor the decision as he does at the end. He honors the decision of those who have refused the invitation. Let's be absolutely clear about that. We started with a quotation. In this we have known the charity of God, that he has laid down his life for us. And we should lay down our lives for our brethren. We should, as the passage goes on to exhort, help those in physical need down here on earth. But the greatest need is the need to find salvation. That is where the real poverty is in our society, I suggest. We can help those around us who are in physical need, and we must. But let's not do it at the expense of their spiritual needs. The invitation is about passing from death unto life. And in the world of hatred, this is the mark that we love the brethren. My little children, let us not love in word nor in tongue, but in deed and truth. Let's get close to those around us in need of salvation. We hold the invitation. Yes, we hold it thanks to the relationship that we have with those around us. Let's make sure that there is nothing that will block that love, the love that motivates us to go out into the world and bring the gospel to the people of our day. Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. Amen.